What's your favourite sport? There are so many different types of sporting activities to get involved in that there has to be one for everyone. If you love sport, then tune in and have your knowledge tested. How many bases are there on a baseball field? Who is Michael Jordan? What are the rules of cricket? Stick around and find out the answers to all these burning questions and many more on why, what, where. How many bases are there on a baseball field? Baseball is a bat and ball game played between two teams, each consisting of 9 players. The goal is to score runs by hitting a ball thrown by a pitcher and touching a series of bases arranged at the corners of a 90-foot square or diamond. Do you know how many bases there are on a baseball field? That's right, there are 4. The bases are first, second, third, and home plate. The 9 positions on a baseball team include 1 catcher, 1 pitcher, 4 infielders, and 3 outfielders. Players on the batting team take turns at hitting against the pitcher from the other side, which is called the fielding team. The fielders try to stop the batting team from scoring runs by getting hitters out in one of several ways. The team with the most runs at the end of the game wins. A player on the batting team can stop at any of the first 3 bases and then run to the next one once their teammate hits the ball. The teams switch between batting and fielding whenever the fielding team gets 3 people from the batting team out. 9 innings make up a professional game. There have been many great baseball players who have become famous all over the world. One of these players is Babe Ruth, who was the first great power hitter in the game. This is the first baseball bat Babe Ruth used to score the very first home run at the opening of Yankee Stadium on April 18, 1923.
Right before the game, he walked into the ballpark and he said, "I would give a year of my life if I could hit the first home run in this new park." And he got up that day in the 4th inning against the Red Sox, of course, their rivals, and he swatted a 3-run home run into the right field stands. And that night, Fred Lieb, a sports writer, christened the house that Ruth built.
This sporting moment is thought to be one of the most exciting in American sporting history. Babe Ruth scored his legendary run against the Boston Red Sox before a crowd of 74,000 people. Other famous players in baseball include Mickey Mantle, Lou Gehrig, and Joe DiMaggio. Which Major League team has won the most World Series? The New York Yankees. They've won 26 World Series and 15 division pennants. How many players on a basketball team? Basketball is a fun and energetic game that requires a lot of strategy and teamwork. Do you know how many players are on a basketball team? There are 5 active players on each team, trying to score points against one another by placing a ball through a high hoop, the goal. The team with the most points at the end of the game wins. On the court, players bounce or dribble the ball, or pass it between teammates. If you make aggressive physical contact with another player, a foul is called. There are also restrictions on how the ball can be handled. Breaking these restrictions is called a violation. Over time, basketball has developed to involve common techniques of shooting, passing and dribbling, as well as players' positions and offensive and defensive structures. Usually, the tallest members of the team will play centre or one of 2 forward positions, while shorter players or those with great ball handling skills and speed play the guard positions. Basketball is one of the most popular and widely viewed sports in the world. People tune in to watch their favourite teams and players. Did you know that when it first started out, a soccer ball was used instead of the orange ball that's now in common use? Dribbling wasn't part of the original game, except to bounce past to teammates. Michael Jordan is a retired American professional basketball player. His biography on the National Basketball Association, NBA, website states that he is the greatest basketball player of all time. He helped make the NBA popular around the world in the 1980s and 1990s. He was great at leaping in the air and performing slam dunks, slamming the basketball into the hoop. This trick earned Michael Jordan the nickname Air Jordan. He was also known as a great defensive player in basketball. Even though he no longer plays the game, Michael Jordan still loves it and encourages kids to get into it.
My advice is to enjoy the game. You know, game is a great game. You only play the game because you love to play. And for every kid that I talk to, I love to see the passion that they have for the game of basketball because with the passion, you will get better as a basketball player. And you know, my biggest advice: love the game, enjoy the game, play the game.
In the first game of basketball, what did players use as hoops? Peach baskets were used in the first basketball game. What is the FIFA World Cup? Every 4 years since 1930, except in 1942 and 1946 because of World War II, a special cup is awarded. Do you know what this is for? It's for an international football competition, the FIFA World Cup, usually just known as the World Cup. FIFA is the name of football's global governing body. The tournament involves 32 teams competing for the cups at sports arenas within the host country over a period of about a month. It's the most widely viewed sporting event in the world. In 2006, an estimated 715.1 million people watched the final. A trophy is awarded to the winning team. World Cup winners get to look after the trophy until the next tournament, and they get to keep a gold-plated copy rather than the solid gold original. This is because in 1983 the trophy was stolen and was never recovered. Apparently, it was melted down by thieves. 75 nations have played in at least one World Cup. Only 11 of these have ever made it to the final match, and only 7 have won. Brazil is the most successful World Cup team. It's also the only nation to have played in every World Cup so far. Did you know that a game in which players kick a ball with their feet is called soccer in North America, but football everywhere else in the world? Coming up, we find out when the Olympics began. We also find out about gymnastics and synchronised swimming. Why do we have the Olympics? When did they first start? Every 4 years, a special sporting event happens that brings together thousands of athletes competing in many different events. Do you know what this major event is called? That's right, the Olympics. There are Summer Olympics and Winter Olympics. The Olympics are an important international competition that tests the strength and celebrates the achievements of our sporting heroes. It started many, many years ago. In fact, there were actually ancient Olympic Games, which were held in Olympia in Greece. People believe that the first ancient Olympics happened in 776 BC, almost 3,000 years ago, way before your family or teachers even existed. It wasn't until 1894, though, that the International Olympic Committee was formed, and 2 years later, in 1896, the modern Olympic Games, as we now know it, started up in Athens in Greece. There were 9 sporting events: athletics, cycling, fencing, gymnastics, shooting, swimming, tennis, weightlifting and wrestling. In addition to the Winter and Summer Games, there are Olympics for teenage athletes and athletes with physical disabilities. The Games are now so big that pretty much every nation in the world participates. Did you know that athletes or teams who score first, second or third in each event receive medals? The winners receive gold, runners-up receive silver and third place winners receive bronze medals. What is synchronised swimming? Imagine dancing underwater. You have to have pretty strong legs and arms and be able to hold your breath underwater for a long time. strong muscles are just some of the things you need if you want to be a synchronized swimmer. You also need to be able to swim, be flexible and graceful, and have very precise timing, not to mention excellent breath control to help you perform upside down underwater. You see, synchronized swimming is a very artistic sport. It combines swimming, dance and figure skating. Either as pairs, teams or on their own, swimmers perform 2 routines for the judges, one technical and one freestyle. Their dance routine is performed to music, and there are many different aerobatic and acrobatic moves to perform. Synchronized swimming started in the early 1900s in Canada. It's a sport performed almost only by women. In its early form, it was sometimes known as water ballet, but it wasn't until 1984 that it was first held in the Olympics in Los Angeles, California. The Russian swimmers have been the world champions for about 10 years. They're a very strong and graceful team and work very hard to keep first place. But it's not just humans that can perform synchronized swimming. Whales can too. These are beluga whales and they live in one of the largest aquariums in Japan. In this display, riders jump on the back of the whales and into the pool as the mammals form circles and other patterns to the tune of a romantic song, just like human synchronized swimmers do. Hundreds of spectators gathered to watch the routine. It was very fun, especially when they make a circle and start rolling. The aquarium staff say it took months of hard training to complete the 5-minute performance. But the difficulty was not in coordinating the whales to move in tandem, but in getting the humans to keep up. There was no problem on the animal side, but it is very difficult for 4 of us humans to keep in line with each other. What do synchronized swimmers use to keep water out of their ears? Earplugs. They also wear a rubber nose clip so they don't swallow water. What sport involves a chukker? Have you ever heard of a chukker? Do you know which sport uses this term? The answer is polo, and it's perhaps the oldest team sport in the world. It was probably first played by warriors over 2,000 years ago. The name polo comes from a Tibetan word meaning ball or ball game. Because it started out in Persia and was played by kings, princes and queens, it's a game that's associated with the rich and noble of society. Hang on, what's a chukker? Well, a polo game has periods of play known as chukkers. Depending on the rules of the tournament, the game may have 4, 6 or 8 chukkers or rounds, which last for about 7 minutes. Between chukkers, players switch to fresh ponies. Not all polo is played on horseback though. You can also play it on camels, elephants, in canoes, in the water and on the beach. Did you know that a full-sized horse is actually used in the game of polo, but the term pony is used in the game? What is gymnastics? You probably have heard of gymnastics or even know somebody who does it. It's a very hard sport that involves performing exercises which require great physical strength, flexibility, coordination, balance and grace. Girls and boys can do gymnastics, but they'll sometimes do different events. For instance, boys do the pommel horse, still rings and high bar, while girls perform on the uneven parallel bars, balance beam, floor and vault. Gymnastics started out in ancient Greece and included skills for getting on and off a horse, as well as some circus performance skills. There are different types of gymnastics, such as rhythmic, aerobic and acrobatic. Some gymnastic routines are also performed on a trampoline. Even though the routines are short, they are physically exhausting and push the gymnast's strength, flexibility and control to the limit. It's easy to hurt yourself if you don't stretch or warm up properly, or if you make one false move. This is Vanessa Ferrari, and she's an Italian gymnast who took part in the Olympics in China. I started when I was 6 or 7. In the beginning, it was like a game. She is now 17 years old and is very tiny, but very strong, and tumbles and bounces for more than 30 hours a week, with no exceptions but 3 days a year. In the vaulting event, gymnasts sprint down a runway, jump onto a springboard, push off from the vault with their hands to perform a couple of twisting moves or somersaults before landing with both feet on the mat, without losing balance. Pretty challenging, huh? These two men have decided to get better at gymnastics by doing a little homework and practicing in their house. They've set up house gymnastics where they can climb around their house. Moves are made within the home by balancing on furniture or fixtures and must be held for 3 seconds. They grade each move from 1 to 5 stars, with 5-star moves being the most difficult. Each move also has its own name. You don't have to be particularly fit to take part in house gymnastics, just ready to play. Sounds like fun, huh? But perhaps you better check with an adult first before you start trying to climb up your walls. Coming up, we find out why we have umpires in sports games and what's the difference between badminton and speedminton. Why do we have umpires? Umpires call the shots in a game. Have you ever played a game and thought you saw a player do something against the rules? It can be hard to judge for yourself when you're playing, so that's why we have umpires. They're the people who make sure that the rules of the game are kept. This game is hockey, and it's a hard game to umpire. To do it well, you need to be fit and be able to manage people, as well as being fair and honest. What other skills do you think you may need? You need to communicate well, understand the game technically and tactically, and most importantly, you need to know the rules. Hockey refers to a number of similar sports in which two teams play against each other by moving a ball or hard, round, rubber or heavy plastic disc, called a puck, into the opponent's net or goal using a hockey stick. There's field hockey, ice hockey, roller hockey and street hockey, to name a few. It can be a rough sport, so you need to wear knee pads and sometimes a face mask to protect yourself from getting hit. The umpires have a tough job as they also have to protect themselves, watch the game closely and make sure that nobody is breaking the rules. What is a hat trick? The scoring of 3 or more goals by a player in one game. What are the rules of cricket? Hitting a ball with family and friends is a great way to spend your activity time, keep fit and help build coordination and strength. Cricket is a game that involves a bat and ball that is played during the summer throughout Australia, the Indian subcontinent, South Africa, the Arabian Peninsula, the West Indies and Britain. It's a game that requires good timing, skill, discipline and patience, as it can last for a very long time. If you haven't played it before, or if you don't know the rules, then I'll describe them to you. You need 2 teams of 11 players each with 2 umpires on an oval field. Make sure you have a cricket bat, which usually has a skinny handle, and a cricket ball. In the middle of the field is a pitch, which is a hard, flat strip of dry ground. 2 batsmen stand on the pitch at a time, both at different ends. One needs to face the direction of the bowler who throws the ball. The bowler must throw the ball overarm and release the ball before he or she reaches a white line painted on the pitch. Rule number 1, the bowler mustn't step over the line or their team gets a 1-run penalty. Teams score by getting runs. A run is completed when a batsman hits the ball and then runs to the other end of the cricket pitch, getting past the white line. At the same time, the other batsman must run to the opposite end of the pitch. The batsmen can run as many times as they like, but they can be out of the game if their stumps are hit with a ball by a fielder before either batsman reaches the white line. The stumps are 3 sticks of equal size that have a small piece of wood balancing on top. The fielding team can get the batsman out in several ways, such as catching the ball that the batsman has hit before it bounces. The bowler also gets a batsman out if his bowl strikes the batsman's stumps. In a one-day match, each team has one inning of 50 overs, which is a series of 6 bowls by a bowler. The team that scores the most runs in their innings is the team that wins. What is an LBW? Leg before wicket. This is when the stumps are prevented from being hit by the ball by the batsman's legs. What is a ping pong ball? Have you heard of the sport or game of table tennis? Perhaps you know it by another name, ping pong. Well, ping pong is a sport in which 2 or 4 players hit a lightweight, hollow ball back and forth, the ping pong ball, with small rackets, which can also be called bats or paddles. The game takes place on a hard table divided by a net, and players must only allow the ball that is hit at them to bounce once on their side of the table. They must return it so that it bounces on the opposite side of the net. Points are scored when a player fails to return the ball within the rules. When you get good at ping pong, the game is played really fast and you have to react quickly, otherwise you'll lose. Since 1988, table tennis or ping pong has been an Olympic sport. The winner is the first to score 11 points or more while being 2 points or more ahead of an opponent. Ping pong started out in England during the 1880s as fun for guests after dinner. People adopted the idea as a substitute for outdoor tennis, especially during the winter. Now people play the game competitively in Asia, Europe and the United States. Did you know that in 1993, Jackie Bellinger and Lisa Lomas set a world record by hitting 173 balls back and forth in 60 seconds? What is the difference between badminton and speedminton? You may have heard of badminton, but do you know what speedminton is? Firstly, badminton is a racket sport, just like tennis, and it's played by 2 opposing players in singles or doubles. A player stands on one side of the court and the other player stands on the other side. They're divided by a net, and the aim is to hit a shuttlecock with a racket so that it passes over the net and lands in the opponent's half of the court. If the shuttlecock hits the ground, then the rally or round of the game is over. Speedminton, on the other hand, is just like badminton, but without the net. It's a new sport that's taking Germany by storm. A combination of tennis, squash and badminton, it's a sport that can be played just about everywhere. Whilst most of the movements are pretty familiar, the speed of the game is much faster than badminton and other sports with a racket. The game was invented by a man named Bill Brandes, and he first named it shuttleball, but in 2001 the game was renamed speed badminton or speedminton. You can be a sports fan at any age. There are so many sports to get involved in, from basketball to gymnastics to swimming. The sports world is your oyster. Check out your nearest sports club to find out the range of activities you can get involved in, and you never know, one day we might see you at the Olympics.